Hi, my name is Natalie Miller, and I'm going to be talking to you about the misuses of technology. There is a home in Sacramento, California, where a lonely wife cooks dinner for two when she knows that there will only be one eating. After dinner, she will go upstairs, look into the room with the TV light glaring, and tell her husband, who is actively involved in his Halo video game, that dinner is in the fridge and she is going to bed. Without pausing his game to look at his wife, he mumbles okay and off she goes. She goes to bed every night by herself, and when she wakes up in the morning, the other side of the bed hasn't been bothered with. Soon this husband lost his job because of this video game, but more importantly, he lost his wife. When he snapped out of his virtual reality, it was too late and his wife and life moved on without him. This story is all too familiar in many homes. I saw firsthand the devastation of how an addiction of video gaming destroyed a man and, more importantly, his family. Technology can be very damaging not only to an individual but also to families throughout the world. Misuse of technology has a negative effect on the family. More than half of families eat dinner with the TV on. We spend more time looking at our smartphones or computers than spending time with our families. Video games, internet pornography, and social media is dwindling down the real world and replacing it with a virtual world. When one chooses the reality over anything else, that is a good indicator that we are misusing the technology that has enhanced our lives. The world of social media and technology can be used for many wonderful things. Finding old friends, reconnecting with lost family members, family history, promoting your business, finding jobs, going to school, and other useful activities. Video gaming can be an addiction that alters our sense of the reality in which we live in. This addiction can also cause aggression and low school performance. Research on video games revealed that video games were related to both physical and relational aggression for both men and women. Video gaming just doesn't affect couples or adults, they have a large impact on children as well. A study done by the American Academy of Pediatrics has shown that depression, anxiety, social phobias, and lower school performances were outcomes of pathological gaming. Recovery.org has a great 12-step video game addiction program for both adults and children. This is a great way to start the process, and if you are unsuccessful with the 12-step program, they have many other great resources that can help. One of the most negative effects on the family that stems from internet technology is pornographic websites. There are many problems for those who have an addiction to pornography. It is important to understand that pornography affects the chemicals in your brain and is as physically addictive as any drug. Many pornography users think that once they are in a relationship, they will be able to stop, especially if they get married. It is hard to have a relationship with someone who is addicted to porn because it interferes with the person's ability to have a normal relationship. Pornography is actually an intimacy disorder that will not go away with marriage. It's a comprehensive psychological illness that compels an individual to avoid deep, meaningful interaction with a real human being and to replace it with impersonal, sensual imagery. Pornography doesn't just affect those that are married. Pornography has a significant effect during all stages of family life. For a child exposed to pornography, it causes individual and family stress and increases the risk for developing negative attitudes about the nature, purpose of human sexuality. For adolescents who view pornography, their attitude towards their own and other sexuality change, and their sexual expectations and behaviors are shaped accordingly. In fact, pornography doesn't just apply to men like many of us think. In a study done with 494 adults, 392 were female. 29.8% of the participants were categorized as having a problematic internet pornography use. Internet pornography is a worldwide epidemic that targets everyone. FeedTheRightWolf.org is one of thousands of great websites that offer coaches and programs to help those who are addicted to pornography. Many churches also have active programs that help with intervention and the recovery process of pornography addiction. It is not uncommon to walk into a party with a room full of people and at least half of them are looking at their phones. Are we truly connected with our friends and family, or are we more connected with our followers? People can be plugged into their iPods, streaming videos, and scrolling their news feeds all at the same time. As a society, are we addicted to our social media? According to Facebook, the company's 1.23 billion users log into the site for an average of 17 minutes each day. In total, that's more than 39,757 years of our time collectively spent each day on Facebook. And that's just one website. There are 1.28 billion monthly active users on Facebook, 255 million Twitter monthly active users, with 200 million tweets sent out per day, 200 million Instagram monthly active users, and 300 million monthly active users of Snapchat, with 400 million Snapchats sent out per day. It has been estimated that 8 to 18-year-olds are devoting close to 7.5 hours of entertainment media a day, which adds up to approximately 53 hours in a week. There are statistics that are significant because that is time spent engaged in those social websites and is not time spent with loved ones, doing homework, talking to people face-to-face, or enjoying other aspects of life. Many adolescents have their own smartphones, which play a huge role in the lack of social behavior and relationship development. Although there are not specific organizations or websites that just focus on social media addiction recovery, but there are many different organizations that can help with technology addiction. What they all suggest is take away the smartphone and focus on your family or friends in real-life situations. My call for action is to be involved with your family and friends. Put down the cell phone, turn off the TV, unplug from the distractions, and plug into your family. Build your imaginations by reading books together or exploring the great outdoors. Play a board game. Spend time talking with your family and spouse to show them that you love them and you take interest in them. Make your family the priority in your life, not the silly things like Facebook or video games. Talk openly to your family about pornography and how harmful it is. Do not try to not talk about it. Make those who have any type of technology addiction feel welcome to come to you for help. Unplug from your video games, TV, tablets, and smartphones, and plug into your family. The end.
Do we want to take turns asking questions?
How was I on my time first?
You're at 8 minutes.
8 minutes?
Could you see me, or were you just reading?
I couldn't. I couldn't see you. I kept looking down. Did you see me? Like, I kept...
Sorry. It's okay. We'll just go ahead and do questions now.
Okay.
You want to Cambria, and then we'll ask questions, and then Rebecca, will you ask questions?
So I thought of a lot of questions while you were doing that. But I was just thinking, so what would you do? So a lot of youth are on social media, you know, they have their own phones, whatever. Like, I guess I'm asking you as a mom, like if you noticed that your child was starting to spend, like what kind of guidelines, I guess, would you suggest for parents who have kids that have phones and whatever, I guess?
I would have an opening monitoring system, which I read it on a couple of websites that talk about like pornography or social media, that that when they're home, they cannot have their cell phones. That they have to, if they want to get on the computer, they use a family computer that's like wide open, and they have to charge their phones at night in their parents' room. And I was like, wow, that's actually a really good thing, because who knows what's happening once that door closes and they go to bed, right? So I would just suggest that you have open technology in your home, that you have, you know, everybody's password, and that they know that at any time that they can, a parent can get on and check what they're doing. So I think the guidelines of having an open technology space in your home where, it's family, it's not quiet, and to charge cell phones at night and to like every other tablets, anything else, so that it's not causing more into the addiction.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask, do you see, because I also studied technology, do you see any like government laws or policies or anything on a state level being effective or ineffective?
So for me, when I was doing the research I was trying to find like some government programs that would help in this, and I did find that each state has like a sex addicts recovery program, and so that could help with pornography. But I think because we are Mormon, that we know that the focus should be on the family. So, yeah, it's bad, and all this other research is coming out and saying that, look at what technology is doing to our world. But it doesn't seem like that big of a deal to, to government or on an international level. I think where you would find the breakdown is that it would be through the breakdown of the family, that technology is taking, creating a virtual reality. But as of right now, there's no real policies at the international level.
Amber kind of took mine, but I was going to ask about screen time. How can you limit screen time, and does it just need to be something that's more for youth or for adults as well? How do you really do that? And in addition with that, I know you talked about your open policy. How do you counter your children's arguments of, well, all my friends still get to use it at night and so such and such? All those great.
Well, I think that a lot of parents fear that they can't be a parent, that they have to be their child's friend, and that is an issue. Who cares if your friends get to be on their phone all night? They're not in my house. If they were in my house, their stuff would be in my room. In fact, my cousin, that was a policy that my cousin had in place when he was in high school. His older brother had an addiction to pornography, and so that when his brother got his cell phone, it was charged in his room, in his parents' room every night, and when he got home, he lost it. Why do you need your cell phone? If you want your cell phone for a phone number, like, he was able to get it, but he had to call people, and you can't just text them and be like, hey, you want to come over and hang out or whatever. So I just think that you just have to be like, I know my child's going to hate me for this, but you know what? These are more important things to me, to keeping my child safe, to keeping my child in the real life and not some virtual reality. The story that I shared at the beginning of my speech is true. I came from, I had a friend who never saw her husband. We would go over there, and I only knew the sound of his voice. I never, ever saw his face. And we had friends forever. And, she ended up leaving him, and it kind of this whole story, and she kind of went off the deep end, and, it's very upsetting, but it's like you just have to lay down the law and just say, these are the rules. If you don't like it, then you don't have a cell phone at all. You don't have a computer at all. So either take what you're given or don't take anything at all. Any other questions? And I'm sorry about my time. I guess I wasn't really paying attention.
I think she said 5 to 7 minutes, and so you're only like a minute off, so I don't think you need to worry. I'll be bigger this time, I guess. All right, go ahead, Cambria, I guess.
No, okay.
Are we going to do the questionnaires now or after all four of us Okay.
That's it, Dan.
Do you mean
Okay.
the peer review?
Yeah.
Are we doing that? We're doing that at the very end, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure.
Okay. Oh, let me grab my speech. That would be helpful. Okay. My name is Cambria Reeves. Our family's first computer arrived at our home Christmas morning when I was 11 years old. It was a big deal. Not very many people owned a computer. I was amazed by what it could do. With a push of a few buttons, games could be played and papers could be typed. Within a couple of years, my parents signed up for American Online. The internet was officially in our home. The world was at our fingertips. Researching information was exciting. I no longer needed to thumb through an encyclopedia. I simply looked on the World Wide Web. As more people went online, so did businesses, products, entertainment, communication, and media. Over the years, internet evolved into a priceless resource, a resource that took the world by storm. But with the good comes the bad. Pornography began to rain down, infiltrating the internet with its exposure. No longer did pornography users need to purchase images at the store or rent the X-rated video. It was available on the internet in large amounts. Damon Brown, author of Playboy's Greatest Covers, states, "It seems so obvious. If we invent a machine, the first thing we are going to do after making a profit is use it to watch porn." Really? This was on the internet? I had no idea. As an adolescent at the beginning of the internet storm, I didn't know this was taking place. I'd heard of these magazines and X-rated videos, but the term pornography was foreign to me. Yet internet pornography was becoming a huge industry and soon would be a household term. With the ease of access, pornography users have built this industry. Covenant Eyes reports that in 2014, the pornography revenue reached over $13 billion, with internet pornography bringing in $3 billion of that. Pornography has become more common and acceptable in society. It's seeping into every type of media: movies, television, music, and print. Whether characters on the screen are joking about their love of viewing it or sexually explicit lyrics are being sung to catchy rhythm, it is everywhere. Everyone's affected by pornography. Individuals, families, marriages, adolescents, children are exposed to it daily. So what happens to those who come face to face with pornography? Through a youth internet safety telephone survey, researchers found that 25% of youth regularly on the internet were exposed to unwanted pornographic material. A quarter of these youth were upset and nervous about what they saw, but 3/4 of them weren't. I'm familiar with this group of unwanted viewers. They are my children. This past October, my two boys, ages 8 and 10, were at a neighbor's home. My 8-year-old son came home clearly upset. He related to me that the boys were talking about a new movie they wanted to see. With their neighbor friend, they decided to look up the movie trailer on the internet. Along with the trailer, a pornographic image popped up. My son had run home to tell me. He said he left the room immediately. As relieved as I was that he had left the room, I knew I had another son in this scenario. Where was he? What did he do with this unwanted exposure? After he was asked to come home from the neighbors, he approached me with tears in his eyes and expressed, "Mom, I saw pornography, and I didn't leave the room." The 3/4 who didn't claim to have feelings of nervousness at the sight, what about them? Some reported to feel irritated, but knew how to maneuver around it. Others didn't. Did they leave the room? Was curiosity piqued? Covenant Eyes reports most boys had their first exposure to pornography at 12 years old. For young adults, 68% of young men view pornography every week. Young men are not alone in this exposure. 60% of young women are exposed to pornography as a teenager, and as young adults, about half view it at least once a month. At some point, these youth do not leave the room or maneuver around the site. Instead, they keep coming back. The Family Research Council reports that youth who are exposed to pornography may feel guilty in the beginning, their self-esteem and sexual certainty damaged. However, these thoughts change to an enjoyment with regular viewing. In other words, pornography becomes an addiction. The Family Research Council goes on, further explains how viewing pornography can become an addiction. Pornography is addictive. and neuroscientists are beginning to map the biological substrate of this addiction. Users tend to become desensitized to the type of pornography they use and become bored with it, and then seek more perverse forms of pornography. The addiction deepens, and so does frequency and type of pornographic material being viewed. The youth of society are becoming addicted. Do they recognize the damaging effects of the addiction? Through qualitative focus groups, researchers found that youth do see detrimental effects. The youth interviewed reported that they recognize that pornography is unrealistic, yet they believe it's a source for knowledge and inspiration. This is alarming. The societal impact is teaching children and adolescents to turn to sexually explicit material for education in how men and women should behave in sexual relationships. Pornography as a teacher can't help. It gives wrong and distorted views of relationships, interactions, and perception of self and others. Pornography has become a major player in society. Is this the education you want for your children? Pornography affects everyone. It's no respecter of persons. The imagery pours down upon us in this raging storm of media. The youth are being unwantedly exposed. Are they nervous? Are they intrigued? They need to be protected. So what's being done in this respect? There is federal law against the production, selling, and buying of child pornography. But what about children viewing pornography? In 2000, Congress enacted the Children's Internet Protection Act that puts internet filters in schools and libraries. Families can protect their electronic devices with child safety software and filters. This is helpful, but it isn't enough. Awareness needs to be raised about pornography and its addictive powers. Fight the New Drug is doing just this. It's a coalition pledged to educate and raise awareness about the damaging and addictive effects of pornography. For more information on this cause and to join the fight, go to fightthenewdrug.org. Parents and families need to guard their youth, teach their youth. Society's pornographic influence will only get stronger and louder. It's a threat to the individual, family, and society. Parents and families need to make a stand against this distorted, addictive education of the world. It is up to all of us to stand up and fight this pornographic storm. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Okay, that was awesome. I would just like to say that you have a great tone when you give your. I wish I sounded more like that, but I am obviously sick. So my question is you talked a lot about how the government has stuff for like banning child pornography, all this other stuff. Is there anything that is coming up that is being worked on state levels or even in the United States that will help children who are victim to seeing unsolicited pornography on the, that shouldn't be even an issue.
Yeah, well, I didn't see anything. Like, I looked and I found that they do have that Internet Protection Act for the schools, but even that isn't for all schools. Like, schools can opt to participate or not. And I thought, we have freedom of speech, and I was reading that, trying to, police the internet is really hard, and so I really think it does come down to raising awareness and having these groups, because there are a lot of groups that are wanting to fight this, and I think it really just comes down to that, because I don't know how they would ever get rid of all that, it cleared up, and how would you police that the youth are seeing it? I don't know how they would do that, and I couldn't see anything about that.
That's just something like you and I, you talked about pornography, I talked about pornography. If you are not religious, I think it's not an issue. Like, people are like, well, whatever. Look at the movie 50 Shades of Grey that came out. Like, how come that's rated R? Like, that is ridiculous. And like you said, it gives unrealistic viewpoints, education of that. But it's like, I'm shocked that there's not more that the government can do for it.
Yeah, I am too.
All right, I have a question.
Okay.
As you posted yours, I was able to look up a a research article that is contrary to yours. I don't believe it, but it's my question. In the September 2009 edition of the International Journal of Law and Psychiatry, Milton Diamond, he's a sexologist and professor at the University of Hawaii School of Medicine, completed a review of studies of the effects of pornography use in multiple European countries and the United States over the past several decades. So he took all this research and he asserts that, contrary to popular public opinion, pornography use does not increase the incidence of sex crimes or sexual violence in society. His conclusion is it's been found everywhere, it's scientifically investigated, that as pornography has increased in availability, sex crimes have either decreased or not increased. So there's a general consensus that pornography should be restricted for use by children, but that they shouldn't restrict it for adults. Do you think adults should be restricted at all? Do you think everything should be free game? Because the research says it doesn't increase violent crimes.
It's funny because I think that it doesn't increase violent crimes. I think because you're getting such a population out there that is interested in having sex addictions and participating in it together. I know that I have a brother-in-law who is a sex addict, and he has never had to hire a prostitute or never had to do any of that because it's so readily available to find a partner who's interested in the same things as you via the internet. So you can do all these things legally. And what is the root of all of this was his addiction to pornography. And I don't know how you would ever, I think it should be illegal. I think it causes huge problems, and it's a huge attack on the breakdown of the family. I think the problem is that society doesn't see this as a drug. And they just see it as, hey, we're having fun, and who cares, and, kind of this, if I like it, I can do it. But I think that if the more awareness that's raised, the more people might realize that it is so addictive and such a drug, and that maybe the reason it's not causing as many violent crimes is because people are, finding free partners out there. They don't need to be violent and get what they are looking for.
I was going to tell you girls, though, we just installed a block on our internet. It's done wirelessly, so anybody who accesses our internet on any device, so when they come into our home, they can't have it like on their personal devices, because you can block computers. But it's opendns.org, and it's awesome. Like, it blocks. You can just tell it what you want it to block, and it'll block anything and everything. And it's all devices on your network.
Is it free, or is there like a monthly charge? Or
free.
Really?
It's so sensitive. It actually blocked Google Plus for me. My husband had to go and unblock it because you can have all those adult. You must be 18 to view it.
Right.
And so we're just talking about it today. And he's like, I can't believe we haven't heard of it sooner because it is so awesome.
See, that's the problem. Like, when you do research on technology and pornography, you're going to have the people who are for it and then are for against it. And a lot of people at the government level don't see it as a problem. So it's but all these little organizations are doing as much as they can, but it doesn't ever get any public, announcement for it. And that's what Obama should be saying in his speeches, is to say, hey, although we can't do anything at the government level, look at all of the things that the people who are doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that doesn't...
Oh,
yeah.
I was going to say, I missed your presentation. So would you send me a paper version of it? I know it's kind of personal, but if you just email it to me so that I could do an evaluation.
Hey, I'll post the link right away. I can post it, and so you can just watch it.
Oh, that'll be good. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just post it on the chat thing we have.
Okay, that'll be perfect. So I guess my question is, from learning all these things about pornography and having young boys at home, how has it affected kind of your life so far?
I think the biggest thing that my sister and I were actually talking about it today, her husband's the one that I mentioned who has struggled with a sex addiction and is getting help for it and stuff. But but we have talked about like the awareness aspect of it. And my sister was taking her kids to school today. It was driving a carpool for her daughter, who's a beehive, and said to the other girls who are all in their neighborhood, are all in beehives together, and she said, "Who is talking to you guys about pornography?" And my niece said, "Mom, you're the only person that talks to me about pornography." And my sister said immediately, all those other kids acted really uncomfortable. Like she said, it was like an immediate, like, this is awkward. And so she started talking to him like, well, my sister said, would they ever talk to you about it in school? And she said, I don't think they would ever talk to us about that. They talk to us about other drugs, but I don't know that they would talk to us about that. And all the other kids kind of started warming up like, well, yeah, they would never do that. And like, I just thought, these kids were uncomfortable. They're all LDS. They all know that, like, their parents have been taught, like, pornography is not good. I think it's such a scary topic. Like, we talk about heroin, we talk about cocaine, we talk about all these things. Well, you know, like, we don't do drugs, we don't drink alcohol, we don't do this. But pornography is such a taboo topic. And I think for us, with my kids, like, we talk about it. Like, we're upfront, we talk about what it is, and what do? We have an exit plan. So if they are exposed to it, what do they do? And I know my son, that I shared that experience with him, my other son came home and said, I was, you know, like, it scared me, whatever. My other son, when he came home and said, Mom, I looked and I didn't leave, he said it was because he didn't want to hurt his friend's feelings. Like, he was nervous at how the friend would respond. And so we talked about that. Now that friend comes over and says, hey, do you guys want to come to my house? And my boys are really quick to be like, yes, but we are not allowed on YouTube and we cannot be on the computer at your house. Like, we have really, like, I think that's the biggest thing is I want my kids to know that it is a drug just like any other drug. And I think that, you know, we talk about it and we don't skirt around the issue. It needs to be addressed loudly, I guess. Anything else? All right. Off you go then.
All right. I'm Rebecca Jackson. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess that lived in a kingdom far, far away. One day she met her Prince Charming, and it was love at first sight. The prince and princess got married, and they lived happily ever after. The end. The end? How can that be the end of their love story when the marriage has just begun? What does happily ever after even mean? The cliche ending is how fairy tales and Hollywoods portray marriage, and they hold us up to a unrealistic expectation that young people picture in their minds. Young people expect wonderful marriages with no work. The world portrays love as fireworks, feeling every day is exciting and it's easy to be in love or fall out of love. But love is an everyday deliberate choice. You choose your spouse, you choose to love them, to be committed to them, and to love them every day. Oh, I scrolled too far. Every day through small and simple acts. When I first met my husband, there were no fireworks that immediately went off, and it wasn't love at first sight. Sure, I thought he was good looking and a great guy, but none of these things that are written about in fairy tales. We developed a wonderful friendship that was the foundation to our relationship. When we were first married, life was ideal. We went on weekly date nights. We talked for hours. We loved spending time together, and we were completely devoted to one another. After 6 years of marriage and 3 children, my husband and I had a great family. We enjoyed spending time together with our children, and we were a happy little family. Overall, our family was wonderful. Our marriage, on the other hand, was just okay. At the time, we were living more like roommates with no real marital connection. We had put our family, children, and advanced graduate education as first priorities and put our marriage on the back burner. We found happiness in our family life, but stress and discontentment in our marriage. We didn't have a bad marriage, but it wasn't a great marriage. We'd forgotten the most important relationship and didn't do the things that were necessary to make our marriage better. As we turned to one another and made our marriage a priority again, and as we took time and steps to strengthen our relationship, our marriage was able to grow stronger. If you want beautiful plants and delicious vegetables, you can't just throw seeds on a ground and call it a garden. A garden requires a well-thought-out plan. The ground must be prepared and cultivated, seeds must be planted and watered, the basic needs of the garden must be met, including appropriate sun, fertilizer, pest control, and weeding. The garden needs active and constant caring, or weeds will overgrow. Dry plants will choke out, and a once thriving patch of green will turn an ugly brown. So what does this have to do with marriage? Much like a garden, marriages take planning and care. Marriages will only grow and thrive in an environment where both spouses put in the necessary time and effort to make it work. If no investment of time or effort are made, the marriage cannot succeed. In the world today, people do not take marriage as seriously as they should or once did. This is evident in the rising rates of divorce and cohabitation. Despite desires for successful long-life marriages, couples marrying for the first time in the United States continue to face a 40 to 50% chance of divorce during their lifetime, with approximately 2/3 of those divorces occurring within the first 10 years of marriage. And the percentage, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the percentage of unmarried couples living together has increased tenfold, from slightly more than 1% of all couples in 1960 to nearly 12% in 2011. In general, people are casual about marriage relationships and do not take the necessary steps to lay a proper foundation prior to marriage or to improve on their marriage over time. When spouses aren't happy, they often opt for divorce instead of working through their problems and strengthening their marriage. This is a prominent threat to families and to our society because good marriages are the foundation of strong families. One solution that's being proposed to counter the rising divorce trend is premarital counseling. Currently, there are 7 states that offer discounts on marriage licenses if you voluntarily complete premarital counseling. The organization Kids Against Divorce is introducing a ballot initiative called the Marriage Education Act that requires couples to attend premarital counseling before they can get a marriage license. The purpose of this group is to reverse current downward trends in the number of people getting divorced by educating couples and helping to strengthen their marriages. This is clearly working towards solving a root problem rather than just temporarily addressing a symptom in society. The goal of premarital counseling is assuring that couples fully understand what a marriage is and how much work it takes for it to be successful. It's not patching over broken relationships, it's helping couples to strengthen their relationship and make a plan to keep their marriages strong. In a study published in a peer-reviewed journal, Family Relations, researchers concluded that premarital prevention programs are generally effective and the effects last from 6 months to 3 years. So having premarital counseling is a great start to a marriage and may help decrease the divorces in the early years of marriage. Clearly, there are other steps that also need to be taken to continually strengthen marriage to prevent divorce, but premarital counseling will go a long way toward getting couples off on the right foot. Marriage is not the end of the fairy tale. It's only the beginning. It takes work, it takes dedication, it takes the full time and effort of each person involved in order to be successful. As we make marriage as we take marriage more seriously and avoid any false replacement that the world has designed for marriage, we can achieve stability, love, and happiness in our homes. I encourage you to support premarital counseling initiatives in your home states so that more marriages can start with a strong foundation and more couples can have their own happily ever after. Any questions?
I have a question. I'm really intrigued by the marriage, premarital counseling.
Uh-huh.
Now, I live in Las Vegas, and so, you see a lot of, let's go to Vegas and get married, woo! So how, if let's say that a law or bill or policy was passed on premarital counseling, what would you think? Do you think the rate of marriages would go up or would it go down?
That's a good question. So in Florida, they have a 3-day waiting period when you get your marriage license. But if you do the voluntary premarital counseling, they take away the 3-day waiting period. so you can get married more immediately, and they give you a discount. And the marriage rate in Florida hasn't gone down at all. It's remained the same. Of course, that's not a law, so not everybody has to do that. That's all voluntarily. I do think that it would decrease the marriage rate in the beginning because people aren't going to want to go through that effort. They've talked about with the Marriage Education or the Marriage Education Act to have scholarships to pay for the counseling, or counseling through, if they don't want to go through a counseling through a faith-based organization, which offers free counseling to their members. And so that's another obstacle that they do have to face, is people not wanting to pay for it.
Okay, just like a side question, I guess. Do you think that takes away rights of an individual? You know, people, if it became like a law or policy, it would never be able to be passed. But would that be taking away the rights of people if you made them take a premarital counseling class before they got married?
No, I don't think it would be, because there's lots of things that people want to do that they can't do unless they have a license for it. Some of them are, if you want to be a hairstylist, or if you want to teach, or if you want to do a lot of technical skill things, you can't do it unless you have a license. And to get your license, you have to have some sort of education. And so why not have education before you get married and before you have a family, and cause broken homes by divorce if you aren't properly educated and have the effort into your marriage.
Excellent.
I have a question for you. Why do you think America, not just America, but why do you think we've developed this kind of fairy tale view on marriage?
A large part of it is the fairy tales in Hollywood, that they say marriage is easy and it doesn't take work, and if you're not happy, then obviously marriage isn't for you and you should get out as quick as you can. And that's a lot of the problem, is people don't fully understand that marriage does take work, and that's okay to work towards something together. It's not a 50-50 relationship. If you make me happy, I'll stay. If you don't make me happy, then I'm gone. And so if with premarital counseling and any counseling during marriage, they can realize that when you work at your marriage, you can both be happy.
Perfect.
Okay, so my question is about the premarital counseling too. Do you think that premarital counseling is, well, I know that in some states, like before people get a divorce, there's like a waiting period, and I think most states are like no-fault divorce states and stuff, but they try to make it like, oh, here's a little waiting period for you to think about what you're doing. Do you think it would be more effective for them, instead of doing premarital counseling, if they were to do, like, as a part of that 3-month or that time period, if they had to take marriage counseling, like in the end versus in the beginning?
Is a great question. Both of them would be beneficial. Part of it is that once they are contemplating divorce, there's obviously a problem, and so it's easier to have counseling before the problems happen, because once the problems happen, it's a lot harder to be able to come back together. There is part of the initiative that they're trying to put on all the ballots, is that you can get a tax credit for continued marriage counseling throughout your marriage. And so that would also benefit throughout your marriage to continue being better.
And it would benefit those of us who want to be family and marriage therapists.
Very true, very true.
Right, thank you.
Okay, my name is Hannah Kamek, and I will be addressing the misuse of technology and how it affects the family. Have you ever walked into a party with a room full of people and at least half of them are looking at their phones? Who are they texting? What do they see on Facebook? What does their tweet say about the party? How does my Snapchat selfie look? Are we truly connected with our friends and family, or are we more concerned with our followers? People can be plugged into their iPods, streaming videos, and scrolling their news feeds all at the same time. As a society, are we placing social media above our family relationships? According to Facebook, the company's 1.23 billion users log into the site for an average of 17 minutes a day, and that's just one website. How many of us go to more than one social media website in a day? Numerous reports estimate that 18 to 34-year-olds spend as much as 3.8 hours a day on social media. There are 200 million tweets sent out per day, 200 million Instagram monthly active users, and 400 million Snapchats sent out each day. It has been estimated that 8 to 18-year-olds are devoting close to 7.5 hours to entertainment media a day, which adds up to approximately 53 hours in a week. The American Academy of Pediatrics has recommended that children under the age of 2 should not have any screen time. They have stated, unstructured playtime is more valuable for the developing brain than electronic media. Children learn to think creatively, problem solve, and develop reasoning and motor skills at early ages through unstructured, unplugged play. Free play also teaches them how to entertain themselves. Young children learn best from and need interaction with humans, not screens. The time we spend engaged in these social websites is time not spent with a loved one or a child. These distractions can prevent us from creating lasting relationships with our family members. When we spend more time looking at our smartphones or computers than spending time with our spouses, children, or siblings, we have a good indicator that we are misusing the technology that has enhanced our lives. Sometimes we don't realize that media can disrupt family mealtime. More than half of families eat dinner with the TV on. There are no laws, policies, or programs that address this threat to families because it is a personal decision how to spend your time. Although there aren't any governmental programs, there are many family-oriented organizations, TED Talks, and motivational videos that explain how social media can get in the way of our relationships. HappyWivesClub.com is an example of a blogging website that shares ideas about how to have a fulfilling marriage, and there are a couple of articles that talk about the boundaries of social media in marriage. Although this isn't currently a governmental issue, I think that it would be beneficial for child and family advocates to support bloggers, books, and researchers in their endeavors to raise awareness in the effects of technology can have on the family. I realize that the world of social media and technology can be used for many wonderful things. Finding old friends, reconnecting with lost family members, promoting your business, finding jobs, and other useful activities. Technology provides many opportunities for learning and sharing information, but it should not prevent us from fostering family relationships. Excessive media use does not promote social skills, family time, or exercise outside. It does not promote teaching your children, lending help to those around you, or learning a new skill. I no longer want to catch myself staring at my newsfeed, Instagram homepage, or Pinterest app and realize that I have wasted 45 minutes. I want to use that time cuddling with my husband or talking to my extended family on the phone. I want to use that time by writing in my journal or reading a book. I could add up all of the hours that I spent on entertainment and use that time to learn a new language or learn how to play the guitar. I challenge you to seriously reflect on how media is affecting your relationships. Can we be more involved with your friends and family by managing your time with technology? Read a book to a child. Play a board game with the entire family. Leave the technology at home and go on a hike or to the park. Spend time talking with your spouse and family to show them you love them. Unplug from your video games, TV, tablets, and smartphones and plug into your family. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. So you talked about the Academy of Pediatric Pediatric Doctors recommendation for no screen time for children under 2. Can you tell my husband's a dentist? Natalie's laughing at me.
That's okay.
But do you think that all children should be limited? Like, for example, I let my kids watch PBS shows because, I'll be honest, they teach my kids way more about animals than I ever knew, and they tell me new things all the time. And I think that's awesome because I don't know all that stuff. So what do you think about the balance of that?
Yeah, and that's a counter argument is my kids are watching educational TV, so they're getting something out of it. And studies have shown that they might not actually be learning as much as we think they might be learning, actually. And they have shown that if parents watch it with the kids, they learn a lot more. So if you still feel like, okay, I need half an hour of PBS to teach my kids about animals or whatever, I think it's the parent's decision ultimately. It can't be a governmental decision. But I think we just need to make sure that what we're watching with our kids, and that it's actually teaching our kids what we want them to be taught. Because I feel like sometimes, like you watch Wiggles or something, are they really learning their colors from watching Wiggles, or are they learning colors from going outside and talking about the green leaves or the red flowers and stuff like that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So along with what you're saying, I just taught a math class at my daughter's preschool to the parents, like how to teach preschool math to your children. And I think this lady thought I was a teacher, which, I mean, hey, thanks, but don't tell me all your problems. And she was like, well, I fought to get my son into this program because he needs to start his education. And I just kind of looked at her and I was like, well, you know, a lot of stuff starts at home, and that's why you're at this math class, is so you can do that at home. She said, no, school is the place for education, not at home. And I just kind of was like, what? And she brought up PBS. And so she was like, well, my kids watch PBS, and that's the education they get at home. So if PBS doesn't teach them, then their teachers need to teach them. I am the mom. I am not a teacher. And I was like, let me adopt your children because I officially feel sorry for them. So what, Hannah, my question is, sorry for that little rant, goes on to that, though. A lot of people think that technology is so great for their children. You know, they can sing these songs, they know songs by heart, and they're like, you know, a lot of kids don't even know their ABCs, but my kids know their ABCs because of this educational program. So I know you kind of answered it with Rebecca, but what would you say as a parent to that mom who said, no, school is the place to learn, not the home. Technology is supposed to teach my children, not me. Like, I give them PBS, and I mean, I should get Mother of the Year because I'm giving them that opportunity at home.
Sure, yeah, I think just the way that she said that and the way that so many people think, okay, educational TV is great. Playing these video games on my tablet with my kid that teach them the alphabet is great. And I think that just proves how caught up in technology we are. We don't even see that we're drowning in social media. We don't even see that, okay, if I did these coloring pages with my daughter, that quality time in that teaching moment is going to teach more in that 10 minutes than it will for a half-hour PBS show. So I think I don't know what I would say to that person without trying to offend them, but what I would say would just be like, your kid needs personal interaction. They don't need interaction with a screen. And it can be really hard to be like, okay, I'm going to follow the American Association of Pediatrics and not let my kids watch TV at all because they're not 2 yet. That can be really hard because of the world that we live in. But I think it's a great goal to strive towards because that age is so crucial for their development that we need to really advocate for, let's unplug. Our kids can tell when we're not really listening to them, when we're looking at our phones, and just try and be a little bit better to be there for our children.
Great job.
So my question is about mealtime. I like we know as members of the church, like they talk about it, like 8 meals together. I mean, I feel like it's something that we've kind of been taught or whatever. How, like, just that simple thing we know can have huge benefits. And I remember hearing about it in my parenting class, and I think that there is, it's being taught secularly out there too. I'm wondering what can we do to raise awareness about that simple thing about, like, families are better if you turn off the media and eat dinner together. How would we get that out there as a big thing? I don't know.
For me, my first step is, so I'm married, I'm out of the home, but I have siblings that are at home and they're attached to their phones. So my first step is convincing my own family members that you don't need your phone every 2 seconds. You don't need it to eat. You don't need the TV on to have a snack. You know what I mean? And so for me, I think it starts at a micro level. Just like, okay, this is our rule for our family, and the reason why is there's so many benefits that come from it. We're not just trying to take your phones away because we're mean parents, but we don't know how much time we have on this earth, and no one knows, and we're all going to die. And so I just don't, if I could impress on my family members and those around me that time is limited and that there's nothing productive that comes from watching TV together and nothing productive that comes from all being on your own tablets or whatever, then that hopefully will start a change there. And then, like I said, there's so many TED Talks, there's so many motivational videos and articles that say, okay, can we take a step back and see what this is doing to our lives? And so just sharing those can help with can broaden to your community. Like I said, I don't think that the government can really say, okay, I mean, they might go into pornography and censorship and stuff like that, but they won't go into, okay, you can't let your kid watch TV today because they're not old enough or whatever. So I think it's more of a smaller level. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it has to start at the home. And I know, I think that's something that we have implemented from, the day we became a family. We eat dinner together every night, and it is really helpful. And I can't say that we don't always watch TV, but 90% of the time we don't. But it is good. It was a good reminder.
It's just small changes. I feel like that's the whole thing, because I am guilty too. Writing this article, I was like, okay, well, I've been on Pinterest today. You know what I mean? I think it's just a matter of raising awareness. So.
Yeah. Thanks.
So with mealtime, in one of my husband's classes, the professor makes everyone take out their phone and do it face down on the table, and then they know what you're doing with your phone instead of hiding it. And my husband's like, that is the greatest thing ever. That's what we're doing at mealtime.
I think that's good. I think about my parents got my girls Kindles for Christmas, and I would never charge them, and they're like, oh no, it's broken, and I'm like, yeah, it is. I mean, it's great for when we go on trips and stuff, and sometimes my daughter Oakley will come to me and say, Mom, I just need a break, and she kind of just needs to be by herself, and I'm like, here's your Kindle, you can go watch a show or something, and she usually just ends up playing a game, whatever, but luckily they lose interest, but I could see how addicting it could be. It's just but that's when, as a parent, you got to go in there and be like, okay, what are you doing? Let's turn it off, let's go play a game. You have to be the one to say, hey, I want to go outside and I want to play with you. Engage them. You want them to not be addicted.
I was going to say, that's a whole other aspect too. When you go outside anymore and you go to the playground, there's no kids on the playground anymore, and that is another part that we could go into, which talks about our addiction to technology and always being virtually connected. But it's kind of it has to start at the home, because kids aren't just going to be like, oh, I'm going to develop a new skill today instead of going on Twitter. You know what I mean? They're not going to – parents have to kind of initiate it.
I was just going to say with the Kindle, my daughter got one for Christmas too. You can download free time on it. But hers has a time limit.
But that's just like, then I have to like explain. It's like, it's just better if it's not charged, because I think it's broken when it's not charged. But with what Hannah was saying, so we live in Las Vegas. Like right now we're having like 70-degree weather. We go to the park every day. We play. My kids love it. And we are usually the only ones there, which is insane to me. It's 70 degrees in February and March. You get out and you play with your kids. There should be no excuse. But in the summer, we swim all the time. And we live in a condo complex, and there's a great pool, and we are the only ones who use it. There will be like sometimes like on a Saturday where like other people are there, but it's like it is 116 degrees outside, and these kids are choosing to, instead of doing something fun like swimming, I mean it's so much fun to go swimming, they're choosing to stay inside. And who knows if their parents are home, what they're doing. I mean, that's like the biggest question is, when I'm not home, what are you doing? What should I know that you've been home, I've been gone for 9 hours of the day. What have you been doing? So anyways, that was my biggest thing with technology, is I know that like I see that kind of stuff, you know, we go to the park, we go swimming, we do so much stuff outside. And we never see kids. And I mean, like, that's all I did as a kid was play outside.
Exactly.
You know? So anyways, I know this wasn't part of the questionnaire or anything, but we all kind of talked about the same thing, so. Does anybody else have any other questions, or we good?
So should we take it off of live for a sec?